Welcome to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast.
Every week, they talk about the Vancouver Canucks with a fair amount of nonsense thrown in.
Sure, they're never the first with the news, nor the best connected, and definitely more off the rails than on.
But they've been talking puck the longest, and that counts for something, right?
So strap in for the longest running, best mediocre Canucks Hockey Podcast.
It's C4 with Chris and Anna.
Hi, Anna. Hi, Craig.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Craig, the robot. See,
I'm never going to stop doing this. Never going to stop doing this.
Yeah, and now I'm just used to it. I'm like, okay, we're talking to robots now.
Yeah. We're also talking a day later than we normally do because apparently your social calendar is far too busy.
I mean, yes, I did manage to cram into this weekend going to the Goldeneyes game and Galliano Island, which was, it was kind of a lot. So I got back pretty late last night. But I'm here.
You are, and that's what's most important. It's probably a good thing because had we adjusted our schedule to record either before the game last night or potentially after the game where we haven't had an opportunity to sleep on whatever the heck it was we witnessed for the Vancouver Canucks, dire.
Mm-hmm.
But
I watched it on a ferry.
Oh, okay. Well,
instead.
It comes in and out just like the Vancouver Canucks offense. We want to make it very clear though. There are some big things happening here at C4. We are rebranding. We've just decided we are no longer the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast. By golly, we're the C4 Hockey Podcast. Why would we be the C4 Hockey Podcast, Anna?
Well, because there is more than one professional team in Vancouver now. It is not just the Canucks occupying our headspace and heart space, and way too much of that. It is also the Vancouver Goldeneyes because we now have a PWHL team.
And, what's really exciting about this is that the PWHL, sort of just the scene itself, some really good, cool vibes. But just you and I were at the game, the home opener on Friday night, and the energy in that old barn was just something else. We got bonus hockey. And we got ourselves a win out of it. And it just, felt right that not only can we, get in with the Vancouver Goldeneyes right from the get-go, but it'll help talk about, a team that's got some good vibes going about it. Let's call a spade a spade. We're often pessimistic about things, and I don't think there's anything that I can be pessimistic about when it comes to the PWHL. Say for the potential of fans, maybe not buying in like they should, but they will. I have some strong feelings that this is just the tip of the iceberg, and the league is just going to take off. At least, as it pertains to the Goldeneyes. But yeah, we are now known as the C4 Hockey Podcast, which is kind of cool because one, none of our social branding has the word Canucks in it. Very easy. Yeah. Obviously, we might have to update some of our, text stuff, but that's easy. But this is going to be pretty cool. And I don't know if there are any other Goldeneyes podcasts out there. I know there's a number of content creators that cover the PWHL, and I know that there are some fantastic content creators in our own market that are going to start talking about the Goldeneyes. But I think we can lay claim to being the longest running and still best mediocre Vancouver Hockey Podcast.
There you go. Yeah, it still works.
Yeah, but we're going to get into the week that was for the Vancouver Canucks, the game that was for the Vancouver Goldeneyes. That will all happen in Rewind. We're also going to talk about a few things here in Half Full, Half Empty that pertains to both of them franchises. And most importantly, we have to acknowledge the emotional roller coaster that I went through on Saturday night. I lived 1,000 lives, Anna. I didn't know I had 1,000 to live, and I lived them all.
I bet you did. Yeah, I think you could definitely say it's been a roller coaster of a sports weekend for Vancouver, and literally every team featured in a way because even if they weren't playing, they were there, you know. The
Hmm.
Rise went to every game this weekend, all three games. BC Lions players went, so yeah.
Yeah, the Vancouver Whitecaps, if
Are
you
all
didn't
coming.
know, beat LAFC. LAFC has been the Chicago Blackhawks equivalent to the Vancouver Canucks. Vancouver Whitecaps have met them in the postseason
Oh, I
for
see.
a number of straight years. And this match, the Whitecaps are up 2-0 at half. Chris, he's having himself a party.
Yeah.
I did not expect that LAFC would simply roll over. They didn't. They came out in the second half. They were very aggressive, and that's what you would expect. I just hoped that Vancouver could hold on, weather the storm. Then Tristan Blackman gets himself a misconduct caution, sent off with a red card. Bollocks.
Mhm.
This Sun guy, kid can kick.
Yeah. I mean, I think I said this in the podcast before. I don't really understand why he left the Premier League. He's still pretty high in his game. I know playing for Tottenham can be very disheartening, but yeah,
Bah. Wait
he's
until I
still
talk about
pretty
Tottenham
good.
in a moment. Yeah, Sun got both LAFC goals. He scored on. It was just a complete, mad situation full of madness. Ends up scoring the first goal. Credit to him to getting it. Like it wasn't like he, knocked it in off his butt. He did everything he
Hmm.
could and hit it off at 400 Whitecaps players before putting it into the net. That's the first goal. Second goal, phenomenal set piece. But where things went even nuttier is Vancouver's down a player going into extra time. And in extra time, the player who replaced Tristan Blackman, Bilal Halbouni, goes down with an injury. There are reports that suggest it's a cruciate ligament issue now, but
Yikes,
at the time
yikes.
he was off, no subs. So now Vancouver's down 2 men. And LAFC had their way with them. Every opportunity they got, they put the ball towards the net. At one point in one sequence, it must have been like, let's hit all of the woodwork,
Yeah.
post, crossbar, post in 3 shots consecutively. But Vancouver got to PKs, and in PKs, Sun misses. I can't remember who the LAFC player who missed. And long story short, Matias Laborda put Vancouver through. And my goodness, I swore.
Yes,
I lived a
I'm
thousand
sure there
lives on that.
was the Ayrton blue, Whitecaps blue. Yeah, I will say like seeing two sad not Tottenham players after the game is just like icing on the cake
Well,
for
there's
me.
a number of people were like, you can take the players out of Tottenham, you just can't take the Tottenham out of the players.
Yes, because another bright spot for me this sporting weekend was the North London Derby where Tottenham got battered because whether it is in the Emirates Stadium or BC Place, Tottenham get battered everywhere they go.
I'm glad we're both happy. So yeah, that's enough, Whitecaps chatter. Let's talk about the Vancouver Goldeneyes and the Vancouver Canucks. Let's start with the Vancouver Goldeneyes. Why? Well, they won. 2, they're new. And 3, you and I happen to be at the game.
We went like host meetup at a hockey game. We love to see it.
Just you don't get to because heaven forbid you or I thought to take a picture of us together.
I know. And honestly, almost forgot to take a picture with my friends who I went with until we were almost at the gate. So, yeah, I'm not good with that. But
Yeah.
we promise we saw each other.
We did. So just to sort of sum up the atmosphere, doors opened at 5:30, and there were a couple of reasons as to why they opened so early. One, there were sort of like an opening type festivities, ceremony, whatever you might want to call it, player introduction. We also had a ceremonial face-off by the goat of football, Ian Christine Clare.
Yeah.
All of the stuff that goes along with it, but we also have to appreciate the Pacific Coliseum has not had professional hockey in it in decades.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's somewhat of a learning curve associated with that. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about how if you wanted to get a beer, you probably missed a period of hockey. The
Yeah,
lineups were nuts. There were enough
crazy.
concessions, and I should sort of qualify that. If you wanted a $5 beer, you'd miss a period. You wanted a $10 beer, you could walk up and get those pretty quick.
Yeah, and I will say, if you wanted a good beer, like, obviously the prices are a lot better, but the range of beers available is still not so good at the moment. But yeah, the merch lines were insane. I really don't understand the people standing in them. I get it, it's exciting, but at the same time, like, you're just gonna have better options online.
Yeah.
But yes, it
My
was very busy.
It was. My wife took my daughter and her friend who came with my daughter, and they went to the sort of gift shop during the first period, and they got in before it just got nuts. The long story short, if you're going to a game, I would highly encourage you to get there early. Get your food early before it gets mad. There's food. There were food trucks, and it sounds like they're going to continue to have food trucks to try to supplement the food serving situation.
Which is good, but it was it's Vancouver in November, so it was absolutely
very pleasant. Very pleasant.
peeing it down outside. So
yeah. And then I drove, and there's plenty of parking around the Pacific Coliseum. There's not plenty of exits and entrances. So we spent a good period of hockey, if there was a period of hockey to be spent, trying to get out of the parking lot to get home. Our commute was, I think, 40 minutes. And I think on the amount of time it took to get out of the lot was about 20, 30 minutes on top of that. So anyhow, but the action itself, fabulous atmosphere. Everyone was in it. Very inclusive, very diverse.
Yes, I would say it was much like my experience of going to an Arsenal women's game. A lot like more queer-friendly crowd. Definitely more families. Definitely more women. So that was very cool to see.
And with the regional rival, the expansion rival, however you want to look at it, the Seattle-Torrington town, one might expect there to be a little bit of energy or I don't know, pugnacity, one might say.
That's a great word.
And while I watched a little bit of, I think it was the Ottawa Charge and the New York Sirens, who they had a lot of pugnacity in the first period. Vancouver, Seattle didn't quite have that level, but it was very clear these two teams were in it to win it from the get-go.
Yeah, and I think that some physicality started to develop over the course of the game. So you can see that rivalry developing further.
Obviously, I will be the first to admit I'm not as familiar with some of the rules that we'll see in the women's game, but also in the international game, one of which is body checking. It took me a moment to figure out what a penalty signal was when a referee put their hand across their chest and placed it on their heart. I'm like, I don't know what that penalty was. Body checking. I had to look it up. But the thing about this is if you're like, oh, they get penalties for body checking, there's no contact. No, there's plenty of contact. We're talking about the clear on obliterate a player for the sake of obliteration. The stuff that you and I want to see out of the NHL, PWHL says no bueno.
Yes. Although I will say there was a period in the third where the referees did seem to put their whistles away. And that was kind of annoying. Like, there was quite a few hooking calls and other such calls that weren't to do with necessarily physicality that I thought were missed. But, that's much like an NHL game, that kind of discrepancy in officiating.
So you were there. Statistically, who do you think was the better team? Who controlled play? Who do you feel was the slightly more dominant? Spoiler alert, Vancouver Goldeneyes won. It went to overtime, and the Goldeneyes did not always have a lead.
No, but I would say that Vancouver seemed to be much more dominant, and they controlled things in terms of chances and stuff, but they do have defensive leaks. That was my impression.
Yeah, Vancouver definitely seemed to come out guns blazing from the get-go. I commented earlier on, but Sarah Nurse is just absolute fire.
Yeah.
I mean, it shouldn't be a shock
So
to
good.
anyone. But one of the interesting components is that Vancouver had the appearance of being dominant and controlling much of the play, especially in the early going. The actual opportunities that they created were somewhat minimal. Like the shot count is
Right.
almost even throughout. I mean, it was 27-27 over the
Yeah.
3 periods and overtime. And no one period was where, Vancouver was a step or two above. But to your point, there were definitely some defensive failings. Like Amaranth Maschmeyer, the goaltender for Vancouver, she had a very strong game. I think Seattle probably runs away with this. Had she not been top notch, save for one goal that I still don't quite understand how Seattle scored. It's also the one that went to a 20-minute review, it seemed, because everyone in the building's like, that's a goal. But it still had to go to a review because the referee, like, well, I came here, I didn't see the puck go in. Then I'm looking at that. There's no puck in there because it had come out.
I mean, it was valid to be confused in the moment, but it really should not have been going that long to review because the video review was so clear, like, that it was a goal. But yeah, I will say that so the Goldeneyes, I don't remember which player said this because I didn't hear the actual clip itself, but they talked about how they're kind of approaching, their mindset is very much like there are 5 players on the ice, not 3 forwards, 2 defenders. So he did kind of see that sort of rush offense having the drawback of them getting caught out quite a bit, and Maschmeyer having to make some saves to keep them in the game.
Yeah. The Goldeneyes did get the first goal, second goal, tied up. Seattle got the first goal in the building. Goldeneyes had a stellar opportunity on the first power play, which they obtained, but Vancouver just continued to play a goal behind throughout until they tied it up with, well, it was an empty net. I don't know if Maschmeyer had even turned around to look up ice because Vancouver already had the puck in the zone before she got off, and they tied it up. And in an overtime, I mean, 3-on-3 hockey is fabulous. When I talked about, I enjoy 3-on-3 hockey. Lots of room out there to skate, and the goal, phenomenal setup. Seattle, I felt completely misplayed. Like they had 2 players who chose both to try to shut down. I can't remember which Goldeneye it was who had
Abby Boreen.
Well, Boreen scored it, but who was the one who set up Boreen?
Great question. No, I cannot remember.
Teresa Vanasova. That's who it was.
I'm looking up there. That's 100%. That was her.
Yeah, so both Torrent defenders went to Vanasova, leaving Boreen just absolutely open. One shot in OT, 1 goal, roof off the barn, and it's a party.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was almost like they were overcorrecting from the Sarah Nurse goal where it looked like she was selling pass and took the shot. But yeah, it was great to see that Abby Boreen scored that. She was dominant all game. And obviously Sarah Nurse and Claire Thompson also got on the score sheet. So it's like tick, tick, tick in terms of the star players. Yeah, the crowd went wild. What a great atmosphere. What a cool night.
Yeah, if I have one complaint about the end of the game, 3 stars, Sarah Nurse got a star. Definitely worthwhile. I thought Abby Boreen should have received the number 1. It's not a knock on Nurse. I just thought Boreen was the best player on the ice for the Goldeneyes. And she should have had 2 goals. She had a glorious opportunity in the first period. She carried the play. She had a goal and an assist. But I'm just being picky.
Yeah,
so that's who I am.
And while we're being picky, I do think something they need to work on is shift length. Like some of the top players were like playing, had very high ice times in comparison to the end of the roster. And obviously that's coach dictated as well. But like some of the shift lengths I saw, like picked out Hannah Miller kept going and going, even though she was clearly gassed. And friend of the show Daniel Wagner raised the point that there's a lot of players who are used to, being star players, and maybe they are kind of used to covering for different players. So hopefully, as the season goes on, that will kind of even out a bit more.
But great start for the Goldeneyes. They are 1-for-1 for the season. My prognostication skills has them going undefeated now, which totally is going to happen, right? But Vancouver is on the road for the next handful of games. They're going to be playing the Ottawa Charge in Ottawa Wednesday, well, for us afternoon, but Wednesday night. It's a 7 p.m. puck drop Eastern, so that's 4 p.m. Pacific. And then they take on the New York Siren in the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. That's on Saturday, 12 Eastern, which means 9 a.m. Pacific for you and I. If you're wanting to catch the games, it's TSN on Wednesday night, Sportsnet on Saturday. But to Anna, what do you think the Goldeneyes will do in those two games?
I mean, it's so early on in the season, and yeah, as you say, both not, still learning PWHL. I'd hope that they take. Ottawa's quite dominant. I'm gonna say New York has historically struggled. So we're gonna go for one win against New York.
Okay. Didn't New York beat Ottawa this weekend?
Yeah. I'm just going on history rather than recent record, but then again, you do. Yeah, it's hard to say because you would want Vancouver to continue their momentum, but it's 5 days between games. It's hard to put. It's not going to be the same atmosphere. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, and I'm poking you here because I'm going to tell you that Vancouver's going to win both. As far as I'm concerned, based on the history of the Vancouver Goldeneyes, they're going to win in Ottawa and they're going to win in Newark. So you heard it here first. I'm not trying to make light of the prediction. I honestly don't know. I'm not as familiar with the PWHL. Vancouver is a new team.
We're learning.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to learn. But the cool thing is you and I are going to talk about the Vancouver Goldeneyes each and every week of the show moving forward. But we're also going to continue to talk about the Vancouver Canucks, no matter how sad we might be about their play as of late. So just to bring you up to speed here, when we last recorded a show, the Vancouver Canucks, they elected to beat the Lightning, and then they went on to play the Panthers. And you'd think that, going into Sunrise, that they, might not have a good game. And,
might be a bit tired.
Might be. And, they were. But the cool thing is that apparently Bobrovsky, I don't know, was he even in net? Because Vancouver was getting goals on like every shot. Now, you might be thinking, holy smokes, how many did they score? Well, if you only take 5 shots and you're scoring on every one of them. But no, the Vancouver Canucks had 15 shots over the course of the game. The fact that they scored 5 goals is nuts. Florida, however, they scored all the goals. 8 in total. Patera started. You and I had sort of surmised that was probably going to be the case.
Yeah. And honestly, considering the goalies, you have Bobrovsky, 2-time Stanley Cup winner. You have Yuri Patera, who hasn't played an NHL game in a year and a half, hasn't played in Abbotsford in a minute either. So, honestly, him only, he conceded 7 goals, not 8, because one was an empty net, out of 41 shots. But, that's not bad.
Yeah. So Vancouver had a 2-goal lead on 2 shots. I mean, it was at one point actually I think the scoreboard said 2 goals on 1 shot.
1 shot, yeah, 100%.
And then it updated suddenly and they had 4. But Canucks were on a PDO bender going into this game, so why would it stop? Florida goes and scores 2 late. They tie it up, goes 2-2 into the intermission. Second period rolls around. Florida scores 3. before the Vancouver Canucks wake up. But the cool thing about this is those 3 goals were in the first 7.5, 8 minutes of the game. So when Petey scored at 7:55, the Canucks were back in it. And the third period rolls around. Petey scores again. Roenick ties it up. We're talking quick in the third. My goodness, the Canucks are going to win this one. Well, no, because, heaven forbid anyone were to stop a puck. I don't think they'd even finished announcing that Roenick had scored the power play marker before Sam Bennett scores a handful of minutes on the power play. Seth Jones does, and then Brad Marchand, of course, scores the empty net. 8-5, Canucks lose. Oh, well. I mean, I don't know what much more to take from that experience.
When you're starting Patera against the Cup champions, and yes, of course, Florida have not looked the same this year as last year. But, you're kind of scheduling that as a loss anyway. Yeah. It was just a more entertaining, bizarre loss than we predicted.
There were a metric ton of people on social media suggesting the Vancouver Canucks should have started Lankinen, and had they started him, they might have won that game. Okay, maybe. But if you're just going to start Lankinen until such time as Demko comes back, which actually might be sooner than later, apparently, I don't know how well that plays out for you. But hey, it hasn't played out so well because the Vancouver Canucks have not won a game since Tampa. They played the Stars on Thursday night, ended up losing 4-2. Again, shots are apparently a thing that the Canucks are allergic to, or at least, until the later part of the game when they're just purely desperate. But despite being allergic to shots, dare I say the Vancouver Canucks were in this game until midway through the third period.
Oh, yeah, totally. I don't know how to describe that game because once again against the Stars, who are a strong team, Vancouver stepped up. They played well, but yeah, it's hard not to see that glaring 5-on-3 power play as turning point. How if you don't score in that's a huge opportunity, and that's not the first time we're saying that about Vancouver not scoring on a 2-man advantage.
But it needs to be mentioned that the Vancouver Canucks have been starting to score on the power play as of late. They're just not dominating when given the opportunity to do so on the power play.
The thing is, and I hate to say the term moral victories, but if this is October and the team looks good against a very strong team but doesn't quite win, okay. But this is late November, we're approaching that ever-dreaded American Thanksgiving deadline, and Canucks aren't winning the games they're supposed to either, so moral victories don't count for much.
No. There was a comment, so I joined Wyatt's Discord server, even though the feud is still alive and he knows why it is. There was someone in Wyatt's Discord server that had made a comment. This game is feeling a lot like that one against Chicago. And first of all, why would you tempt the hockey gods so? Vancouver had a bunch of opportunities in the second period and just could not find a way to get that go-ahead goal. Third period rolls around, and it was pretty much all she wrote when Blackwell scored. I mean, the Rantanen goal, Lankinen needs to stop that.
Yeah, but that was pretty, though.
Okay. If you didn't see it, he does a little spin, fires it up over the shoulder. But I'm sorry, that you can't be letting that goal go in at that point in the game.
Yeah, and I will say that there was a couple of moments when Lankinen wasn't necessarily letting in a goal, but he was letting the puck by him and saved by a defenseman or someone missing. It wasn't his best look for sure.
No. So the Vancouver Canucks lose 4-2, and that leads us up to the game last night, which one might argue isn't much of a game at all. Calgary Flames are in town, having played the night before. They're also facing a Vancouver Canucks team who's playing at home and having been sleeping in their own beds and pretty darn rested. One might think Calgary would just do everything they can to hold on. Vancouver, though, being the gracious hosts that they were, allowed Calgary every opportunity to present Vancouver adversity, and boy, did Calgary oblige. Vancouver decided to shoot the puck, which this season seems to be infrequent, and when they do, sometimes the good things happen. In fact, they scored on the first shot of the game. Filip Hronek scores with a minute-ish into the first period. One might think, hey, at that moment, all is good in the world. The Vancouver Canucks don't score another goal until the third period.
Mm-hmm.
And despite outshooting Calgary in 2 of 3 periods, didn't feel like they were the better team on the ice at any point in time.
No, and those Calgary goals, just like there were so many defensive errors. Just we're seeing the liabilities of Foot's defensive system of man-on-man
Sorry,
marking.
this defensive system?
So apparently there's a system where you have a guy, but what happens if you don't have your guy? And what happens if you need to move from your guy? You would hope
These are
that
all
your
good
buddy,
questions.
buddy covers and steps up to your guy, but that doesn't always happen. The whole thing felt brainless. It felt depressing, and the absolute beautiful moment of skill that was Quinn Hughes' goal just felt like the joy dissipated so quickly from that. It was just like, well, what does it matter?
Quinn Hughes played over half of the game.
Yeah.
Legit, over half of the game. Gets that beautiful goal to, cue the comeback. It's no longer a 3-goal lead or whatever the hell it was, like 4-goal lead. Sorry, Calgary didn't actually score on the empty net but it was like it's like we got Quinn. We aren't too sure what else to do defensively. Hronek actually arguably wasn't too bad, but beyond that, we got no ideas.
No, I would say that Hronek has stepped up his game in recent weeks, but beyond that, it's just like Tyler Myers is once again taking dumb penalties. He's missing assignments.
Here's an idea. Sit Kane, Myers in his place. And I don't care if Myers has to skate on the first line with Petey.
Yeah. And it's honestly it's so depressing from so many angles because it's just like the players aren't putting out their best on the ice. The system is not working. The deployment is strange. Like whenever a line seems to be working, they get broken up because the rest of the lines aren't. Whenever a penalty, power play unit seems to be working, it gets broken up. Yeah, nothing makes sense to me if that doesn't sound too depressing.
Well, the Vancouver Canucks are heading down to California to bask in the sun for U.S. Thanksgiving. They took in the Mighty Ducks Wednesday night, the Sharks Friday afternoon on Black Friday, and the Kings the following night in L.A. Saturday at 7 p.m. So, Anna, we've got 3 games in California in front of us for the Vancouver Canucks. Are you like me and wondering where the wins might come from? They're playing 2 teams that conceivably the Vancouver Canucks are better than. However, the way they've been playing as of late, I have no faith that they can find a way to get a win.
And they have just lost to the Calgary Flames, who are bottom in points percentage, who haven't scored 4 goals, I don't think, all year. Anyway, they have had trouble scoring, and they still lost. They lost 5-2. So Anaheim Ducks are going to tear them apart. They are so fast, and they're skilled, and I don't see Canucks winning that at all. I think future Canuck Macklin Celebrini is going to score a hat trick. It's really hard to see where the points come from.
If a future Canuck scores a hat trick, does someone win on Safeway Score and Win or Save on Score and Win or whoever sponsors it these days? As long as they're a future
they should,
Canuck,
because it's not going to happen otherwise. Yeah.
Okay. So, is there a win? Is there a point?
I'm going to say 1 point.
Or who are they taking it from, San Jose or LA?
San Jose.
Okay. I was going to say they
High
get a
scoring
point
game.
out of LA. San Jose has looked good recently.
They have.
In the last 10, 7-3. Canucks are not going to beat Anaheim. Though now that we've said that, watch them win it 10-1 or some stupid score like that. Thatcher Demko is making the road trip. Now, whether or not Thatcher Demko is healthy enough to be making the road trip, who knows? But the
Maybe he
Vancouver
just wants to
Canucks
go back to
situation,
California.
maybe is dire. The Vancouver Canucks, they are not, dead last in the West, but they're doing their best to get down there. And the Predators are just having a dire season. So
I think
there's
this
always
is
that.
like last year when you can't outdo the badness that is a team bottoming out. So I do think Nashville are always going to be down there, and even if Canucks intentionally start the rebuild, they won't beat them.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw the quote from Foot today, where he said a bunch of words that if you are at all following the English language, don't make a whole lot of sense to someone who's proficient in the language. But I think it was along the lines that if I were to summarize, I don't believe in analytics because they're created by someone who lives in a basement who eats burritos and possibly lives in Russia.
Yeah. So, and I was able to listen to our friends at Canucks conversation today, and they said the stats that he was talking about are provided what the NHL uses. This isn't made up advanced. This is crazy. And honestly, he says, "Oh, but you're right to ask the questions to the media." So I just think it's because the moment is already bad that people are going to react to that quote badly. So,
well, fair, but his answer, kind of throws it out in the open. You've got a coach who thinks old school, thinks the old way, doesn't appreciate anything to do with the new way. And that does not bode well for this team in this league, because we're also seeing signs from this front office that they're kind of doing old way things. I remember you and I were so happy that there was a glimpse of progressiveness and how they weren't tied to bad contracts or would be willing to make good, smart, analytic style deals. And now it's we're only a couple of players away from being a Stanley Cup contender. And boy, if we didn't suffer all these injuries, we'd be in it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I do think the injuries are making the Canucks suffer. And honestly, if we we would be in a way worse off if we didn't have the injuries, because then the problems would not be as exposed. But they would be coming. The problems still exist. They just might be exposed by a couple more wins.
Yeah. Instead of being out of it, we'd be just out of it. Just considerably better.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyhow, speaking of being out of it, you and I are going to take a break. You're listening to the C4 Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Anna, Chris, and Craig.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on it.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He didn't play. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
As we talked about at the top of the show, the Vancouver Goldeneyes are a new professional hockey team here in the market. We talked about the fact that I lived 1,000 lives with the Vancouver Whitecaps FC getting past the LASC franchise that has dogged them over the past few seasons. One might say, as many people did, the Vancouver Whitecaps slayed the dragon. I much prefer to, LAFC it and say that the Vancouver Canucks slayed the eagle. as it has much more of a tie into the team. You've got the BC Lions, who are, turning things around. It's nice to have an owner who is doing what he can to embrace the market, the fans, establish a foundation that is province-wide. You've got the Vancouver Rise winning the inaugural Northern Super League trophy. Season started in Vancouver, and while it didn't end in Vancouver, it ended in Vancouver holding the trophy above their head. Vancouver Canadians, there's always some good times in that.
I mean,
but
we have a Canadian at the World Series.
This is true. Vancouver is a sports town. And one of the things that, the Vancouver Canucks have held on to for a long time is the benefit of being the quote unquote top dog in the market. They weren't always there. Like, Vancouver Canucks have always been able to grab eyes, even when they were piss poor. And like, I remember some really bad hockey in the 80s as a kid. I remember some really bad hockey in the 90s. I could go through every decade. There's a lot of bad hockey if you're a Vancouver Canucks fan. But I also distinctly remember seasons where the BC Lions were putting 30 to 40,000 people into BC Place. I have vague memories of the Vancouver Whitecaps putting in a solid crowd at Empire Field before finding their way as the 86ers and the Whitecaps into Swangard, which considerably smaller building, but could pack the place. And with BC Place and the current iteration, consistently putting 15,000 people into seats during midweek games, which are poorly attended, and 20 to 30,000 consistently, and then the postseason here, selling that big dome out. The Goldeneyes, sample small, filled the barn, and I truly hope they continue to fill the Coliseum. The Nats always got a bunch of people in it, but the Canucks are risking having been the top dog in sort of the apathy that we're starting to sort of see amongst the fan base, costing in that spot. But also, we're not seeing the team really react or understand their position being so precarious. Like, Vancouver's a sports town. Yeah. I'll be realistic. We don't tend to support losers.
Yeah. And what's real loser behavior is thinking that you're a winner when you're not. I think Vancouver sports fans are smart sports fans. They know what they're watching, like a Canadians game that's never going to be, the best of the best. We're lucky to have Trey your Savage, but
for 2 weeks on his stratospheric ascent
in general, you're going for the experience rather than the skill on show. So people know what they're watching, and honestly, the Whitecaps, is that the best league? No, it's still the MLS, but the product they're putting out there is quality. The investment is there. It's impressive to see, and again, the NSL, that's a new league, but people are excited about it, and I think they'll do better with attendances next year. It's just I think people know what they're seeing, and what they're seeing from the Canucks is consistently poor investment or badly directed investment from the ownership, mismanagement. Sticking with losing hands, which the Jim Benning regime is one, and now here we are, just saying no rebuild.
Well, now we're in the Jim Rutherford era, and it's really no different. There must be a thing about gyms. I look at the Canucks though, and I think back to when, and I have to give credit where credit is due, when John McCaw came to the realization that he needed good hockey people making decisions, not senior executives from tech or power or wherever the heck McCown came from. But his hands-off approach allowed the people who understood the market to market the team well. I distinctly recall when my dad picked up some season tickets, they had a quarter pack or something you could get through work. It was just, off of your paycheck or whatever. went to a bunch of games. The Vancouver Canucks barely made it into the playoffs, but every game was exciting. The experience was fun. Like you kind of enjoyed going, and that investment was then rewarded, through the experience. And I think now to the more modern experience that we're seeing from, let's say, the BC Lions, where ownership is saying, yeah, we need to get good people to run the team. But what we need to do is we need to show the people that when they come and they make that investment into us, that we give them the experience they deserve. We don't take anything for granted. Canadian Football League is not in the same stratosphere as the National Hockey League is. And as much as I know this might upset some, I don't think it ever will be. But Major League Soccer has the potential, not necessarily in Canada, but maybe in the United States, of getting at the same level as the National Hockey League. And, the Vancouver Whitecaps ownership group has had issues in maybe not getting the right people or being far too frugal in their approach. But I have to give credit where credit is due. They had an opportunity to make this team better. They chose to do so by bringing in Axel Schuster, a guy from out of the league. He has gone and identified players that, fits within a budget profile. But when a guy like Thomas Mueller became available, and ownership's like, you know what, we'll make this investment, kind of going all in, but seeing how it's paying off, because this market is desperate to support a team who can win, a team to succeed. And that's why I look at the Vancouver Rise. The new league is, I think, what maybe held back their popularity, because not enough people really understood what the NSL was about and who this team happened to be. But by winning that trophy, that got them noticed. The Goldeneyes, I think, are a combination of success from the, was it Montreal and New York that was in town for that?
Montreal, Toronto. Yeah.
Montreal, Toronto, okay. Where they sold out the Raj. But also, we're seeing such significant investment in women's professional leagues. And I think they benefited from the success of the Rise and the success of the PWGL coming in. So there's not to suggest that they're taking anything for granted. I suspect the Goldeneyes, are like, hey, how do we maximize the value here?
Yes.
The caveat being the Goldeneyes are a league-run team, but that's just how the league is. They run all the teams.
Yeah. And
so they're almost in it to make the league succeed.
But as far as taking for granted, Canucks have consistently done that. I mean, ticket prices are still ridiculous. Concessions are ridiculous. It took them 10 years. How many losing
seasons have they had, and they just increased ticket prices by 10 to 15%?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we gave you new seats.
Which they took so long to do, and the concourse and stairs still look like crap. But yeah, the seats are better. But it's just the NHL is so dependent on gate receipts, right? And that's unlike, I'm not sure about the MLS, but almost every other sport has it's more dependent on TV audience.
Yeah, I think MLS is a gate-driven league for the most part, but they, the reason they signed the deal they did with Apple was to have a consistent broadcast partner who was willing to pony up some consistent cash. So that helped. I don't imagine they were making a ton of money on their, semi-regional, semi-national partnerships they had previously.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, NHL's a gate-driven league, and it's kind of always depended on the fact that Canada is going to show up, and maybe that's. But Vancouver as a market, if you have other options, they're just not going to.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was asked why I'm not buying Goldeneyes season tickets, and it's not that I wouldn't want to support the Goldeneyes. It's just I can't afford to buy them. My season ticket dollars tied up with the Vancouver Whitecaps. Now, if the Whitecaps FC were to put on a performance that the Vancouver Canucks have been doing consistently, there's a good chance I may take that money elsewhere. And once I do I come back? I don't know. I'm not, telling you that I'm going and buying a bunch of Canucks tickets. I honestly think I've maybe paid for one or two tickets over the course of the last 4 or 5 seasons. to go to see the Vancouver Canucks. I just, for me, it's the value is not there. I'm spending a lot of money for a product that I'm not necessarily finding as engaging. And it's more than just, looking at the calendar, seeing who's in town. It's the total experience. But on top of that, how I feel like I kind of take it for granted as a fan. Like I've been podcasting about the Canucks now for how long? And I continue to do it. And how many times have I asked you, like, why am I still doing this, Anna?
Yeah, and literally, you never know what's going to happen when you buy a ticket. Maybe your team will lose, but when the overall big picture is so bleak because they're not taking fan investment seriously. And that's very patently obvious with the rebuild conversation, right? Is that they, Aquilini's don't know if fans will continue to show up if there's a rebuild.
They won't.
But are they going to continue to show off if you just keep having seasons like this?
No. But that's the thing is, like a Vancouver, I'm biased. I've been a Vancouver sports fan all my life. And one of the things that I often hear from sports fans from other Canadian markets is Vancouver sports fans aren't real fans. They're a bunch of bandwagon fans. I'd argue that we're actually not bandwagon fans in so much that, we're always only going from winner to winner. We're intelligence fans who invest our sort of entertainment dollar where we feel the value is going to be met. If the Vancouver Canucks blow things up and they rebuild, as you and I have suggested they need to do, the crowds are going to shrink. People are going to take their money elsewhere. They're going to go and cheer on someone else. I'm not denying that won't happen. But the benefit of that money returning when you start to turn things around is that it's not a jaded fan experience who doesn't trust you. They know what you're doing and then they're going to come back. Their current approach, you're burning a generation of people who may just tune you out. They'll change the channel and it'll be so much harder to get them back because they're not actively looking for what you're up to. If the Vancouver Canucks were to become the second thought team in this market,
that's super
I'd be
dangerous.
worried. I'd be genuinely worried that they could potentially be a relocation target. Because that's the other conversation, and this is not something we're getting into in the episode tonight, but the people who say sell the team, they want the Aquilini family to sell the team. There isn't really anyone in Vancouver that's got a wallet big enough to buy them.
No.
And, by all accounts, the Aquilini family is really happy with the money that the rink generates outside of the Vancouver Canucks. So I could see them potentially selling the franchise, not the barn, and there ain't no one out there who's going to buy the Canucks and rent the space out of their arena for them to play. So that's, again, longer story, bigger conversation, future episode.
And I don't think we're there yet at all, but it's just the direction this is going is not a positive one.
Mm-hmm. Anywho, curious for those of you who are listening, what your thoughts might be on, where do the Vancouver Canucks go from here? If you happen to know the Vancouver market, and for those that, don't know the Vancouver market, because I know we have a number of listeners who aren't from Vancouver, who follow the Canucks abroad, who follow you and I. I mean,
because we're dazzling personalities.
We are. Is there a comparable that you could speak to where you happen to be, wherever that is in the world? But we are at the point where we normally look to wrap up our show. We will be back in a week's time-ish. I mean, we'll be back to our regular schedule as Anna's social calendar allows. And just to remind you, we are now the C4 Hockey Podcast, because we are going to cover both the Vancouver Canucks and the Vancouver Goldeneyes moving forward. I guess I should make a note. I got to go and make those changes in all the descriptions and that. Fun times, but I'm happy to do it. Anna, any final words of wisdom for our listeners this week?
Support women's sports, watch women's sports. It's already shown to be a very good investment so far, I think.
Word of advice from me: if you happen to be going to a Goldeneyes game, take transit.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, It's the smarter play. I'm a patient guy, but the time it took to get out of the parking lot was nuts. If you've reached this point of the show and you'd like to follow us on social media, we are at the C4 Podcast on X, the real C4 Podcast on Threads, and c4podcast.com on Blue Sky. c4podcast.com is also our website, which has the majority of our back catalog and where you can find us. And if you happen to want to support us, you can do so financially by throwing a few bucks our way by going to buymeacoffee.com/C4podcast. Buy Me a Coffee, otherwise known as
Buy me a pint.
And you can throw a buck or two our way. We'll buy a pint or two on your dime. We did not do that when we met up at the Goldeneyes game because I was with my daughter, her friend, and wife, and I needed to drive, and it really wasn't as conducive to just having a chill, beer. But we will do that at some point. We will also take pictures to prove that it occurred. And if you want to support us on a regular basis, you can do so at the tune of $5 a month or $50 for the entirety of the year. You can see your entire back catalog of C4 Off the Rails. And when I eventually get around to it, which I'm really hoping is over the holiday break, because I got a bunch of time off, some new episodes that were recorded over the course of the summer and, past a couple of months. But as we wrap things up, I'm Chris at Lightforce. She's Anna A4603, and we out.